Okay, so now moving to item 19, Council-controlled organisations Q1 2019-20 performance reports. And Therese, you're here for this one as well? All right, so let's do let me just get these in front of me, actually, just one moment.
Good afternoon again. I would like to send Joanna Norris's apologies. She is actually in Wellington or Auckland, meeting with the Minister of Economic Development. So I'm happy to introduce to you Laura Dawson, who's the GM of Shared Services, and Tim Loftus, who is our GM of Marketing, Brand and Comms. So, So, basically overall, we are Christchurch NZ Holdings Limited, and the group is also contains Christchurch NZ and Chris Limited. We are your sustainable economic development agency. Our purpose is to stimulate sustainable economic growth for a more prosperous city, and our mission statement is to ignite bold ambition for Ōtautahi Christchurch. So the purpose drives everything we do, and all our actions flow from that. And the mission, I think, is much more than a statement. It is actually, it's who we are, it's how we operate, it is our ethos. And as an agency, Christchurch NZ is very deliberate about what we do. We are evidence-based, strategy-led, and solutions-focused. We take intelligent risks and intervene in the economy to achieve maximum and measurable impact. For your investment in us, as you can see, it buys a lot of things for the city. So we have provided research and analysis into our economy. We've created marketing assets for local businesses, and we provide mentoring and internship programs for organizations and students. We continue to help the transformation of our economy through targeted business initiatives, major event strategy, building our city profile and attraction, and often we do this through public-private partnerships. One of the things we did in terms of attraction and basically reminding people that we're still here was our Baby Come Back campaign. Love it or loathe it, certainly people were talking about it. And we were delighted overnight to hear that we've been selected, that campaign has been named a finalist for the New Zealand Direct Marketing Awards. And we're up against some of the biggest global and local brands there are. We're convinced we're going to win, though, aren't we? Yes.
Clearly.
We're certainly the only EDA or RTO finalist, and the awards night will be late in February, and we'll let you know how we go. So congratulations to Tim and your team for doing that. We also are very much about a joined-up approach, and we're delighted now to be sharing our offices with Regenerate Christchurch and with DCL, and that certainly physical connection has actually fed more and more into the opportunities that come from working together. In terms of, there we go. In terms of working PowerPoint, I'm obviously not very effective. There we go. In terms of 10-year goals, we have what you can see up in front of you. So we've developed a 10-year framework which has both lofty ambitions and measurable goals. Some of this might look vaguely familiar to you, and it's because deliberately we have actually aligned it with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. These things are, the idea was to get past just the blunt instrument of gross domestic product and to wrap more prosperity measures around it. As you can see, we have a number of things up there that include the need to grow the population of Greater Christchurch and to improve the overall perception and confidence in our city. And we also want to claim back the share of the national economy that we held pre-quake. and to do better than the national average in terms of both employment rates and the percentage of our people with enough money to meet their daily needs. So we work closely with others to ensure that our city achieves these commitments to carbon neutrality, and we have a whole system now that is based around raising the prosperity of the city, and these are goals that really drive everything we do. So I'll hand it over to Laura to talk about the first quarter.
Excellent. Kia ora. So I thought I would start off with the finances today. Therese drive that. So as you can see from the quarterly report that you have in your papers, Christchurch NZ's delivered a huge program of high impact activity in quarter one. Looking at the finances, 78% of Christchurch NZ funding comes from council and 22% of our other income comes from government and private sector partners. Council funding for Christchurch NZ is approximately 1.2% of council's investment in the city, and for every dollar spent by Christchurch NZ we return nearly $6 of impact for our city. And as you can see from the table and the quarterly report, we're tracking slightly ahead of our budget for the first quarter.
There we go.
So we wanted to call out a few highlights from the report. It's been an amazing quarter, actually. It's funny to look back on how much has happened in only a 3-month period, but the first quarter definitely saw Baby Come Back, which Therese has already mentioned. I think one of the best parts of Baby Come Back that we need to call out, certainly the best marketing in the world starts great conversations, whether they're good or bad. Ultimately, the conversation is needed to be had, especially a critical one about re-engaging with the centre city. But the best part that's hidden behind this is that this campaign was actually a collaboration across 60 different businesses in the central city. So while we led that charge, we had an incredible response, and ultimately it was a public-private partnership campaign that was united across 60 plus businesses with everything from giveaways to events to engagement of all sorts. So a really cool way, I think, ultimately to invite our residents back into the central city and really highlight the importance of the rejuvenating city and the importance of its core. Another key piece that happened in the first quarter is Bloom. So as you might know, spring is an incredible time of year in Christchurch. We worked pretty diligently with the likes of our national carrier, Air New Zealand, our partners at the airport, and also our partners at Tourism New Zealand nationally, to identify that absolutely Christchurch is the place to be in the spring period in New Zealand. Queenstown can have their winter. We're going to take spring. If you look at the calendar of events, traditionally we've been marketing individual events time and time again with very small cut through, and so the idea was to brand the entire season and make sure the major events and the smaller community events all get the coverage and engagement that they deserve. And so spring is our thing, and Bloom is the umbrella that gives us a platform to build this into the future and ideally drive some more visitation and economic activity in the spring period. During this time, we also had East Coast Australia campaign going, which was also a partnership with the airport and Tourism New Zealand. This was targeting ultimately a 10% increase to 10% on conversion and an ownership of a quarter of all spring travel into the New Zealand economy. This was an 8-week campaign, 3 weeks specifically focused on the Christchurch proposition. Another thing that we did in the spring period was bringing the Antarctic season opening into the central city. So as you know, this has very much been Air Day out at the airport. Unfortunately, the American planes couldn't come this year, and instead of bagging the idea, we thought we'd bring Antarctica to the central city. So we collaborated with 14 different Antarctic organizations, brought them into the square on probably the worst weather day of the year, and engaged with kids and had a really exciting time of bringing the Antarctic Gateway status to the community. So this was a really exciting program for us and one we can build in the spring proposition. Another big thing that happened this quarter was the announcement of the South Island Moon Festival. So as you'll know, we have a traditionally very successful lantern festival that has great engagement with our sister city and the Chinese community. And across the board, everybody was very, very excited about the idea of pulling that out of our incredibly busy February timeframe and popping it right into the center of our spring proposition. So this will now be a hero event for the Bloom Spring promotion. We also launched Supernodes this quarter, which is ultimately, as you're probably already aware, the building of our future economy in health tech, future food and fiber, and future aerospace and future transport. Really very exciting collaboration across government, industry, and tertiaries, and one that's gaining immense traction and ideally will create quite a lot of high-value jobs in the next 10 years, building towards our prosperity framework. And a proof point of that work in the supernodes is definitely the Aerospace Challenge, which was a partnership with MB, Airbus, and obviously Christchurch NZ to get 14 different high-value, high-tech businesses working towards sustainable agriculture solutions.
Back to the numbers.
Yeah. So you can see up on the slides what we've done for you is just summarise those key points into some numbers. Trends in May 2020 is New Zealand's largest tourism and travel trade event, and it's being held in Christchurch for the first time in 8 years. This event will showcase Christchurch to tourism buyers and sellers from around the world. And Christchurch NZ has worked with 13 up-and-coming tourism businesses and is running an 8-week program with 7 of those businesses to be export-ready in time to launch their product at Trends, providing new attractions and reasons to visit Christchurch. Our Convention Bureau's won 5 new events in Christchurch during this quarter. This includes the Australian Travel Managers Conference 2021, which has over 1,000 House of Travel frontline agents experiencing Christchurch firsthand. And we also have the New Zealand Cruise Conference in October 2020 with 300 delegates visiting the Littleton cruise berth ahead of its opening. Spend results in comparison to year-end September 28 are in front of you and are looking positive with increases both in the central city and across Christchurch. International visitor and resident spend is significantly up in our central city. So looking forward to quarter 2, you can see that we've got a number of events under our Wonderful Bloom banner. The priority work will continue to focus on changing perceptions and attracting new businesses and talent into the city. We're delivering major events under the Bloom brand, a business and talent attraction campaign targeting Aucklanders, bringing the Antarctic season opening into the central city and continuing to work on our evidence base.
And we have...
Yeah.
You can do the intro.
Well, I was just going to say thank you very much for those of you that could make our AGM just last week. We had a really engaging and exciting proposition summarizing 2019, which was pretty exciting year. There's a pack here that summarizes it for you. That hopefully you have a chance to grab one of these on your way out today. And also one of the things when we pulled this document together is the final page of this document suggests all the things we're looking forward to in 2020, which was an incredibly exciting long list of hero projects. So we thought we would whip this video together in-house and get some excitement going and hopefully get the residents excited about the year to come.
Mm-hmm.
This is Ōtautahi, our base camp for exploration and Aotearoa's newest city. No mai, haere mai.
Get set for a massive year in 2020.
The city is coming to life in a big way, and we just can't wait for what's new.
We're building a new city for the locals, by the locals, and we're creating a place for people to connect with and love for generations to come.
Tupai Christchurch Convention Centre, set to open in October, is going to be an absolute game changer for the central city. This massive facility will attract thousands of people every year and has already confirmed bookings for 2021.
We can't wait for the Bread and Circus World Buskers Festival to hit town on the 23rd of January. More than 200,000 people are expected to engage with the festival, with a $5 million boost and filling hotel rooms right across the city centre.
2020年10月，在北半球正值金秋时节，而南半球春暖花开的日子，首届新西兰南岛中秋节将在我身后的雅芳河长廊举办。
The country's biggest tourism event, Trends, is coming to Ōtautahi, Christchurch in May 2020, bringing thousands of delegates and $2.5 million to the economy.
Christchurch is a thriving city of business opportunity. It's a hub for B Corps, for social enterprises, and other businesses looking to combine profit and purpose. And it's got an amazing startup ecosystem.
We push the boundaries and are always looking at how we can change it up. Next year, 2020, Ōtautahi Christchurch will be the place to be for innovators looking to challenge the status quo.
We're a city of style and culture, where people make bold choices and impress. We're creative and inclusive.
Ko o tautahi tētahi o ngā taone kanohi rau o Aotearoa me te Aowhānui. Hei te tau e tū mai nei, ka tino puta te ihu o tautahi. Ko mātou te whetū arataki, ka pōhiritia e o tautahi, te tini me te manu. Kia ora o tautahi, you truly are a special place.
Yeah, and as Tim mentioned, and it's the same for the Baby Come Back campaign, we're really pleased that we've brought all that in-house, and we're doing this ourselves now, and really pleased with the results.
Great, thank you very much. Thanks for the presentation. Thanks for showing us the 2020 promotional material as well. That's great. Are there any questions for the Christchurch NZ team? Sam?
I think, sorry to be a pain, it was on the financials of that PowerPoint you had, Therese.
Okay.
I may have misinterpreted it, but I thought it said...
No, okay. Here we go.
Yeah, do we... So it looks like we spent, 100 grand less than budget on the marketing and promotion stuff. I just wondered why.
So obviously, first quarter in the year, the majority of the variance is due to timing differences.
Yeah, if I can ask you to speak really clearly into the microphone so that people can hear. Thank you.
Due to the first quarter in the year, the majority of differences are due to timing. So we don't expect that variance to continue throughout the year.
Thank you. Anne?
Yep. Kia ora. I understand that you're having a much stronger relationship with the inner city businesses and retail. Is there any hope that they might change their opening hours to actually reflect the need? The other night I was in town, it was 5:30. Heaps and heaps of tourists in town and no shops were open.
Great question. We're working pretty closely with the Central City Business Association. So the CCBA has just had change of leadership and a couple of new folks join the board. And there's a bit of a refreshed energy there of trying to get things moving and make a difference. So there has been a discussion about a shift in hours, not so much an extension in hours. So maybe open at 10 and close at 6 or 7. But citywide, it's still a very, early discussions, but there are some expended hours coming into the holiday season, but most retailers in particular are quite weary of doing so because of the staffing concerns. So that shift in opening hours is seen as the easy solution. But most people in that group, most folks are mainly concerned about the winter period, and less so about the opening hours at this point. But it's definitely a topic that comes up at every one of their board meetings.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Also, just in terms of visitor hosts, I know that you had a program running where you had people in red vests helping people find their way around, and I believe that's no longer happening. Is there any opportunity for that to start again? It was really well received, I believe, and it seems like there was a need.
It was incredibly well received. I'm assuming that might have been something that was done about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, the under the CCT banner. It might even have actually been 3 years ago. So at the moment, we're quite limited on resourcing, and so we've really targeted our hosting and famils to either trade partners or influential media. And so we are still hosting at an incredible rate on a daily basis, but it's primarily with those targeted audiences, reporters, and key influencers that can add Christchurch to itineraries and bring more visitors to town.
And I think it's also important to note that we have the iSite, and so driving visitors to our iSite so that they get advice and support from our iSite staff, which are available for them.
So I just wondered that, with volunteers and things, if there's an opportunity there. I mean, we do have them in the gardens and things like that, so whether that's something I'm sure there would be a lot of people who'd be keen.
Yeah, it's a great call. Yeah.
Thank you. So I've got Jake and then James. Jake.
I may have missed it, but what did you have in mind for marketing, particularly the CBD, in the winter of 2020?
Oh, it's a great question. It's in the cooker at the moment. So we've set up a a marketing collaboration fund with the CCBA. So Christchurch NZ has put in 25,000, as has CCBA 25,000, and we've actually added also 25,000 in kind so that we can optimize our in-house team to deliver the creation of a campaign. At the moment, the discussion is really around branding the central city. So there's a lot of brilliant case studies internationally that we're combing over at the moment. With the idea of bringing people into the city. There's also some work being done in major event development for midwinter to bring more folks in, but ultimately it's, again, still early stages. But one thing we're really excited by is that pain point winter issue that we were talking about last year. We were talking about that in March, April, so it's great to see that it's already at the table here in December, and I've a really strong feeling that CCBA alignment will help us. So, yeah.
Thank you. James, and then I've got Jimmy and Yanni. James.
Kia ora. Look, thank you for the Explore 2020. That's what that video was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The question is, I might have missed it. Who's the audience for that? Where's that going?
At the moment, that audience is for you. A lot of that was stock footage that we brought in, and as I said, edited internally, and most of the people in the video are actually our team. But the engagement and response has been so positive that at the moment we're looking to push it out to the broader resident base and get everybody excited about 2020 in a much more engaged fashion. We're working with stakeholders in the city to do that, so that we don't have to spend any money putting it into media. So that's underway for next week launch, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Oh well, good luck with that. I think it's very good. Just one thing that you could do, because this is, while we're looking for 600,000 people here in 10 years' time, we are still a village, and just seeing those people there, I thought, oh, who's that? I think I know that. Just put their, if you can add their names to it, it makes it very personal.
It's a great point. Yeah, great idea. Thank you.
Huh? Yeah, but you know everyone. That's how you got to be mayor.
Great, good suggestions, thank you. So Jimmy, and then Yanni, and then Aaron. Jimmy.
Thank you, Chair. One question regarding to the attraction development. I'm not sure, except we have established, developed some of the major event, etc. But regarding to attraction, whether we have any strategy or policy, working together with like Rickton Bush or Air Force Museum or Monaville or some other suburban area, the attractions or not, rather than only in the CBD.
Sure.
So as I mentioned, the tourism businesses that are being incubated for Trends 2020 actually are much more diverse and across the wider region, and I can provide the names of those to you afterwards if you would like, Councillor Chen. So I think that's an important point, that we have attractions across the city, and obviously the work that our partners DCL are working on with the hot pools, we really are starting to diversify our locations for people to go to.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yanni.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if it's possible to go back to the black slide right at the start. I think it's the next one.
This one?
No, just past.
The prosperity framework?
Yeah. So what I can't tell from here is how you're measuring against those prosperity framework goals. So when I look at inclusive and sustainable, and the number one goal, how do I know how you're performing against that? Or how do you measure yourself against these goals?
That's a great question. So obviously in our statement of intent, we actually have a whole table actually looking at how we measure against that, and the methodologies in there as well. So that's for the current year, and then we're in the process at the moment of actually looking at a more detailed measurement model for next year.
So in terms of number one, if I was to say, so we've got this report, the quarterly report, what's the quarterly report showing in regards to number one?
In response to
the inclusive and sustainable goals.
So we report on those annually as per the statement of intent. So in the current quarterly report, we provide you with activity that's actually leading to those outcomes, and then at the end of the year we measure.
Okay, well then let me put it around another way. What's the activity that you're doing that will lead to goal number one being met?
Greater Christchurch population?
No, the inclusive. So I think it's a higher percentage of Christchurch residents have enough money to meet daily needs than the national average.
Well, at this stage, pretty much the activity of the entire organisation works towards that goal. as an economic development agency, not only driving visitation, hopefully creating new jobs, but also creating future economy. So it is a vague answer, but I think because the prosperity framework is relatively new, what we're really trying to do is establish a global best practice framework. So we've been in touch with the likes of the UN and the B Corp crew and a few other folks in that space, that we can take a global framework where cities are already measuring this benchmark and moving quite considerably quicker than many New Zealand-based cities, and marry up against theirs. So at the moment, SDG cities is quite a cool model that we're really interested in. The B Corp crowd is also integrating with SDGs, so we're wanting to be more robust in the way we work towards these and report on them. But at this stage, I would say more generally, the entire organization is focused on these goals holistically.
Right. So I guess I'm really interested in, like, if there's areas of the city that are way behind on these goals, how are they picked up in the sort of economic development work that you're doing? How do areas like Sydenham, Phillipstown, possibly Hornby, or Aranui, how do they get visibility in the work that you're doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're not really targeted regionally within the city at this stage. I think things like the partnership on the hot pools, for example, and making sure that gets amplified and included into our partnerships with the likes of the national carrier and Tourism New Zealand could be a good example of a tactical support. But at this stage, we haven't really gotten to a regional or neighborhood-based promotion or engagement in that respect.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like if everything works in the central city, it trickles down into those communities.
Well, at this point, the Central City proposition is much more about the overall Christchurch proposition. So in order to get more residents and more visitors here, we feel as though the central core needs to be vibrant and exciting, and obviously the residents need to be quite proud of it and increase our Net Promoter Score. So that's the primary focus of the Central City within the last 12 months. Okay. But I definitely think we see the more holistic approach across the region and the city as we move forward across these goals. Yeah.
Okay.
But when you promote Christchurch, you're not just promoting the central city.
No, that's definitely true, yeah. And actually, to the point around visitor attractions, ultimately we feel as though we're dramatically under-promoting the city as it stands. So we have some incredible assets that are largely unknown. So we do feel like we can work with our existing assets and our existing communities to enhance some of that work. I think superficial advertising probably won't do the job. So working integrated with this council and with the other agencies across the city to be very targeted and strategic, I think is the main answer. Yeah.
Thank you. I've got Aaron, and then I'll come back to you, Jimmy. Aaron.
So just on your 2020 Explore 2020 campaign, so it's a sorry.
Oh, sorry.
But you said it's not a campaign. I thought,
Sure,
is
it is
it?
a campaign.
Well, just your video,
Yes.
and you don't want to spend any money on promoting it, that's good value for money. I like that. What about grabbing like 100 brand ambassadors for Christchurch, like you've got a table full here that all have social media pages, and then asking all of us to paste it on 20 other people's pages and challenging them to put it on 20 other people's pages, because now it's on 40,000.
Yeah, that's a great call out,
And
Councillor.
if 25 people look at each video, that's 1 million views, and that should get at least 3 people to town.
That's a great call. We're working on an ambassador plan. Actually, the Explore 2020 concept was our brand for the ambassador program, which we're introducing in January. But you're spot on, and ultimately, we want to empower you guys with the key messages, the videos, the infographics, and whatever, so you can go out and sell the dream as well.
Yeah, sorry for leaking that. I'm bulimic, I'm a mind reader.
So if there's anything we can help you with in that regard, just let us know. And if you can send something that's capable of being posted to Facebook pages and so on, perfect.
Yeah,
When
thank you
sounds
very
right.
much. Yeah.
Great. Jimmy, back to you.
One question. The Lantern Festival this year is a South Island Festival. But right now, we change it to the Moon Festival. We'll still keep the South Island Festival.
Definitely.
So we'll engage different council.
Sorry?
Engage with the different South Island council.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Pauline.
I was just wondering, I was looking at your retail spend on page 472 of our agenda, and that's looking really good. It's up in quite a healthy percentage there, but it seems to be mainly in the hospitality. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the other retail are not really showing, I mean, are they showing any increase at all?
Yes, there's definitely an increase across the board, both within the central city and across wider Christchurch.
Right.
But our hospitality providers are definitely showing a sustained increase. I think
Yeah,
it was
they're the
over
ones.
6%.
And so I was also looking for increase in tourist numbers. Have you got that? I don't know if I've missed it in here. I was looking for it.
Yes, tourism numbers are up significantly.
So would we tend to sort of align those two together, that the increase in tourism is actually boosting the increase in the hospitality, and not that's why the retail sector per se is not really bouncing back as much as the hospitality?
That's correct, but we also have a 12.5% increase in resident spending in the central city.
Which is good.
Yeah, so it's not only visitors, it's also residents, which is fantastic for sustainability.
Good. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So thanks for the Christchurch NZ team presenting that to us and being available to answer questions. That's great, thank you. So then we've got Linda, you're here to speak to Civic Building and LGFA, Local Government Funding Agency, and Len as well. Were there any comments you wanted to make on either of those sections?
The Civic Building Limited, CBL, is the council's vehicle, an investment vehicle in a joint venture with Ngāi Tahu for the ownership of this building. The thing of most interest is for Q1, they have had a reduced operating cost due to having repaid some of their loan last year, and that's really about it for Civic Building for Q1.
That's all right, and thank you for doing that. Yep, so we'll just note that you're sitting back from the table. Thank you.
And that's really all that's... Sorry, for Civic. Did you want to move on to LGFA?
Let's deal with anything to do with Civic Building first. My only question is when there'll be any update on the work that was going on around a renegotiation of the terms.
Bruce Rendell is leading the discussion on the rent renewal. We've had a number of meetings about it. There's a number of options been tabled. We've been asked for further options to be canvassed, and that is currently being undertaken at the moment. So we're reacting to the Ngāi Tahu proposition, which they've reviewed and undertaken. So therefore, the work we're doing now is adding to what portfolio of work we've already done with the previous council. So therefore, we'll be developing more to give to the owners. The owners will then be able to take it to council. So that's how we'll be doing that. So that is underway.
Okay, so when would you expect something to be ready to come to council on that, or for an update?
I can't speak for Bruce on that one, but I believe that work, options are being tabled at the moment.
All right, that's fine, thank you. So that's Civic Building. Is there anything else on Civic Building before we move on to LGFA? All right, so Local Government Funding Agency, any comment on this one?
The LGFA provides loans to local councils throughout the country. The biggest issue, I suppose, for them for Q1 is that their profit is down slightly due to the reduction in interest rates and the challenge on their margins. Other than that, there's not a lot to say after Q1.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions on LGFA? All right, great. So we've got a resolution recommendation in front of us. Just to note these Q1 reports. Would somebody like to move that? Sarah Templeton. Seconder, Jimmy Chen. All those in favour say aye. Against? That's carried. Thank you.